I hope everyone is well and safe and enjoying a Friday. Obviously, it's really beautiful weather where I am, so that's great. Great to have so many people on the call. First of all, apologies for the confusion last week around what date the webinar was on. Yeah, that was a bit of a mix-up on our behalf, so apologies, and I'm glad we can get so many people on the call today. So to start with, I think the best place to go is, give introductions. Usually speaking on my webinars, I'll go do a round of introductions with everyone, but I understand there's a lot of people on this call today, so it might take too long. So, however, just a bit of introduction into myself. My name's Antonio. I'm the CEO of a company called Recruited. We're a recruitment software company. Well, recently became a software company. So I'll just give you a background. I started my career with working for Apple in customer experience. And then I moved from sort of more customer experience training into HR, into recruitment, worked as part of an agency, and then went internal at Accenture for 3 years. And all throughout that time, I was, of course, absorbing the approach that we were taking to candidates, that I was absorbing how technology was shifting throughout the past 10 years and impacting candidate experience or impacting the way we work with each other. And I spotted a lot of, gaps where, you could use technology to streamline a lot of things for recruitment functions, for candidate experience, and ultimately to drive more efficiencies within the business. So basically, that was the birth of my organization. We spent 3 years running remote recruitment teams around the globe. We were completely remote. So, a couple of my colleagues are on the call today. And whilst building technology and also implementing technology for our customers to ensure that they can operate efficiently within a remote environment. So then COVID-19 hits us, and obviously everyone is forced to be in this position, which is super interesting. But it doesn't mean a massive whirlwind for recruiters or recruitment functions if you're able to just really break down what it means, right? And that's hopefully what I could do and share with you guys today. So we're going to go through the first phase of what the impact of COVID-19 from an operations point of view. So obviously we want to talk about technology 100%, but we want to talk more really around what the impact from an operation point of view it means. And then we're going to talk about how you go to decide what sort of technologies to use. And then finally going to share with you guys some technologies across which can be worked together or alternatively, all in one system. So great. So that's myself, Antonio. Thanks a lot. I've got one of my colleagues, Neil, on the call who works with me, and he's going to introduce himself, and then Kevin, and then we'll get cracking on. Just to let you guys know, if you guys got any questions throughout the workshop, please feel free to jump in. I will be asking questions as well. I don't want to just be spending an hour talking at you guys. I'm sure you guys want to get involved a little bit. If you don't want to get involved, that's fine. You've also got a question box up here or comment box, which you can ask questions yourself, and I'll answer them throughout. So yeah, Neil, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Antonio. So yeah, as Antonio says, I work for Recruited. I'm the sales director there. I've been with Recruited for, I think it's coming on just over 2 years now, Antonio. And my background was always recruitment. I was tech recruitment into finance for 10 years. Left recruitment, promised myself I'd never get back into it again, and then unless there was something new, something exciting to do in the industry. And that's when I met Antonio, and we've been working together ever since.
Thanks, Neil. Kevin.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. I am the Chief Operating Officer of Recruited. I've been here very similar to Neil, just over 2 years, and we've been on a fantastic journey with many ups and downs, and some amazing experiences to share with you around our course of our journey so far. So really looking forward to sharing some of those experiences with you today.
Thank you so much. Okay, guys, we're going to get into it. Again, if you've got any questions, feel free to jump in. It'd be great to have more open dialogue throughout, and so we can really share all of our experiences throughout this, what's happened. So as I said, guys, my name's Antonio. Here's a quick introduction. I have 2 children, Alaska and Leonardo. This is a recent photo of them. And our technology suite is Leo, which is named after my son. Alaska, and that's a all-in-one recruitment CRM. We have Alaska, which is a sourcing assistant that sits with you across the internet, named after my daughter. And I don't have a son or daughter called Brief Builder. I'm not that horrible. That's just another product that we have, which enables recruiters to work with hiring managers to build real effective briefs and, instantly sort of taught a question by question tool. So that's our offering, but enough about that. So obviously, guys, the world has changed. And what I would love to understand before we jump into it is how have you guys found the transition from, being predominantly in an office or predominantly all together in an office to working, remotely? What sort of the experiences you guys have had so far? I miss my colleagues a lot, Lauren. Absolutely. What about in terms of operationally? Feel free to unmute yourselves and jump in and have a conversation here. So I guess a better question then would be what expectations do you have of this workshop today? That's a good question. Okay, we'll start off now. I'm going to go through, but we'll open up more questions down the line. So the world has changed. Everyone is now, missing their colleagues. You can't see your colleagues face to face. You can't walk across, a building or a room to go and see people. Recruitment is very much shifting as well, and the trends in recruitment have massively, or the COVID-19 impact has massively changed sort of the approach from a recruitment standpoint. So we started devising, we're thinking, well, what's the main operational impact for talent acquisition functions during this time of COVID-19? Now, obviously, there'll be lots more here, but from an operation point of view, what we want to think about is, first of all, from a recruiter workload, business impact, and obviously candidate experience. Those are the 3 things we were looking at here. So these are 5 things that we figured out. Team collaboration is going to be more hands-on, and I'll get really into what I mean by that down the line after the next slide. Workload and workflows are now going to increase because obviously we're at home and a lot of information is being processed rather than just verbally spoke. So again, workload and workflow will increase. Candidate engagement will shift to being less high touch in the early stages of the process. And there's a couple of reasons for that. And what I mean by less high touch is, there will need to be an element of automation in the early sides of candidate engagement, purely because everything is online now, right? And you're not able to go and meet a candidate or walk them through a building and show them the culture in the early stages. And you're going to have a lot of applicants as well, more so ever than before. And then candidate video assessment will become a new skill. So whilst we're all used to having conference calls and when we do work remotely, the main element of video assessment today will be, or the main element of assessment today and pretty much for the coming months is going to be video assessment. So actually how we as recruiters react to being able to have that as a skill and assess candidates in a very effective manner is going to change, and the same goes for hiring managers. And then performance reviews are going to become increasingly data-led. So how we're performing as a function, how we're reporting to our stakeholders, how individual team members are performing. They're going to be less anecdotal and more data-led kind of going forward because you don't have the person in front of you. So I'll talk more about that in a moment. So let's get into the team collaboration. So video is great, but it's not going to solve your information tracking. So when I said about it's going to be more hands-on, what I mean is it's going to be less face-to-face and more message-to-message. What do you guys think I mean by that? And why do you think that is as well? Neil, do you want to jump in? You can answer that question first while we warm everyone up a little bit.
So as in the less face-to-face bit?
Yeah, less face-to-face and more message-to-message.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, I'll turn my camera on. The landscape's going to be changing, right? There's going to be some companies that are going to be moving to fully remote workforces. And in a lot of cases, there's going to be a little bit of trepidation about people even traveling long distances to go for interviews. There's still going to be a stigma around COVID for some time to come. So you're going to have much less face-to-face collaboration, both with your teams and candidates. So message to message is going to be more important because you're going to have to find different ways of collaborating with people, and that's going to be online. That's going to be online rather than in person.
Perfect. And so what I also mean is that instead of answering, you know, where you would go to one of your colleagues and, you know, they'd be sitting next to you, you'd ask them about a certain thing, you'll be just directly messaging them in a certain platform, right? So, of course, Elena, clear and extensive communication is important, even if it's online, absolutely. The issue is that we're going to have more information to track, and rather than it just being verbally spoken to you and stored in your brain and then rewritten out onto a note or whatever. So with all of these messages coming your way, there's more notifications and whatnot. Candidate referencing or cross-referencing candidates and securing instant feedback from teams will transform. How do you think why do you think I've put that there? So securing instant feedback and cross-referencing candidates, how will that transform?
I'll jump in and help warm everyone up. So in an office environment, walking across the room with a resume or walking across to get an opinion is really easy, right? You walk across the room and you can instantly cross-reference candidates. In a team collaboration in a remote setting, that obviously becomes, without the use of technology, more difficult. So the impact on using technology is going to be more significant now than it has ever done before.
Perfect. Understanding wider team interactions with candidates will become more transparent. So understanding who has interacted with a candidate is going to become more transparent via you know, whatever tools you guys decide to use as a recruitment function. But you know, the need for that is also required because, again, you know, being able to instantly access information on whether your colleague has contacted a candidate or whether they've been scheduled for an interview, or, you know, any sort of scenario in a recruitment context, you know, the need for understanding that is going to be, you know, more prevalent. And yes, you can say, well, I can directly message, but let's say that person's away from their computer. So being able to track that information is super important. Cross-organizational communication and data transfer will be more paramount due to lack of face-to-face interactions. So as we can see from an information tracking point of view and how you collaborate with your teams, whether it's your hiring managers, whether it's your direct team members, it's going to be greatly impacted. Workload and workflow is going to be completely impacted also. So I think there's going to be a requirement for having more transparency of diaries when it comes down to interview scheduling. There will be a higher demand for information. So what do you guys think I mean, a higher demand for information? So when I used to work as a trainer for Apple, I'd obviously ask questions, and I used to say to people, I'm really comfortable with silence. So great. Data helps make decisions. Absolutely, Elena. Big data will help make decisions. You're also going to have requests coming your way for more information on candidates, not necessarily verbal requests, but they would be shot via DMs, whatever it may be. So that's going to be an impact on your workload, right? Because a lot of information is going to go purely text-based, because instead of jumping on a Google Meet and having a conversation, people just ask questions. So perfect. So Britt, that's great. Less face-to-face means that people will reach out for information in different ways. Perfect. Volume of candidates are going to increase. Why do you think the volume of candidates are going to increase, guys? There'll be a couple of reasons here, but why do you think that is? Boom. Furlough, COVID-19, yeah, exactly. In a COVID-19, many layoffs. So unemployment, furlough, less roles advertised. That's brilliant. People generally have more time to do their CVs and look for jobs. Exactly. There's a lot of people focusing on, you know, what even if they are in furlough, they're probably looking at other opportunities now. Loads of small businesses are continuously shutting down. So your volume of applicants are never going to be like unseen before. And similarly, if the trend is happening, like you see Twitter announced this week that everyone can work from home indefinitely, right? I think many companies are going to be moving in that direction. So what that means is that talent is geography agnostic now. So you can find talent all over the globe, depending if they want to work on your time zones. And obviously we as a remote, well, when we were a remote recruitment function, we had recruiters all across the globe because we were remote, and the talent was better, of course, because it wasn't defined on a certain geography. So yeah, the volume of candidates is going to be absolutely phenomenal. And it really is, obviously this COVID-19 has shifted from a candidate-led market to an employer-led market now, and employers will have a lot more choice. That being said, you know, the candidate experience should never obviously, you know, suffer. And due to lack of face-to-face administration, demand will be higher. So again, workload and workflow is going to increase because of all these factors. These are just a couple of factors that we've realised. Candidate engagement. So as we spoke about before, volume of candidate applications will require more automation, because you know you still don't want the candidate experience to suffer, irrespective if it's an employer-led market. Lack of face-to-face interaction will transform the candidate dynamic. So what do you guys think I mean by transforming the candidate dynamic? So if you think about historically when we're working with candidates, they'll come into the office, you know, obviously we'll give them a walk around, we'll introduce them face to face to many of, you know, like the hiring managers or team members. And what would happen is obviously you could able to warm candidates up better. But because of the engagement that's going to be happening via message, obviously, yeah, we can use technology to overcome the lack of face-to-face, but the candidate dynamics is going to change. Candidates are actually going to become more needy as well. So the requirement to have instant access to where their stages and statuses are, the understanding, you know, the giving candidates, keeping candidates engaged throughout the process via, as I said, automation, via marketing, all those things are going to become more prevalent because you don't want to be able to, you won't have the time to be able to do that lots yourself. And as we said, the geography of candidate applications will expand as well. And then the candidate video assessment skill. So this candidates, the ability to assess candidates effectively will become via video will become a skill. We're talking about video call etiquette will become prevalent. Neil, do you want to just share your points on why video call etiquette will become prevalent? And
yeah,
how
yeah, absolutely. It's something that I've been discussing a lot with people over the last couple of months since we've all gone to sort of remote workforce. Being in a room with someone and being on a video call like this is very, very different in the way that you have to interact with people. And there's a few reasons for that. You know, number one, people naturally interrupt each other when you're in a room. It's not in a rude way, but people will just naturally do that. You can't do that over a Google Meet, really, because there is that delay. So you need to keep that sort of thing in mind. And obviously, the further away you are, the more that delay is going to become an issue. So the etiquette around that being, you know, making sure that you wait before you start saying your sentence, make sure that they finish what they're saying. Other things as well, like ensuring that you're still having that you know, small talk at the beginning of each call, which is what you would naturally do in a face-to-face environment. You'd say, hi, how are you? Where did you come from, for example? How was your day yesterday? Make sure that you're doing that at the beginning of each call. Otherwise, you're going to completely lose that sort of social interaction at the beginning of each interaction that you're having with whoever it may be, whether a candidate or someone at work.
Yeah, and the candidate interview experiences are naturally going to change. via video. That being said, how you warm up those candidates via video or the tools that you use to do so obviously are going to impact that. Avoiding biases will be a significant factor to consider. What do you guys think I mean by avoiding biases, and why is this super important to the whole video assessment in the early stage of an interview, or whatever stages really? But why is avoiding biases why would that be a factor to consider via video assessment? Sorry, what was that, Ken? Yeah, there will have to be more trust in what candidates share during the process. What do you mean by that, Elena, actually? Feel free to jump off your microphone and unmute your microphone and come in on the conversation if you want. I'd love to know a bit more about what you mean by that, but great. And then picking up on social cues as well. So more of a question, do you think biases will be more or less likely to happen in this interview setting? That's a great question, Claire. We were discussing this earlier, Neil, Kevin and I, and we've been discussing with a number of our customers on our platform, and they genuinely do feel like this is going to be something to consider. What does everyone else think? I'd love to know, and it'd be good to have a conversation around what everyone else feels from a video assessment bias, and how we should be considering bias as a significant factor. What do you think, Neil?
So I think it's going to be an interesting one, because you're going to have to sort of almost rewrite the whole rules around it. There's going to be a lot of what's taken into account from sort of trying to make sure that there is no bias anyway when you're looking at candidates, all the typical questions that are being asked. I don't know the answer to be perfectly honest with you. I don't know how it's going to change, but I know that it's going to be something that's going to have a lot of work put into and a lot of discussions over the coming months. I'm not
I think obviously we talk about unconscious bias. I don't think people are consciously going to be I guess deselecting people based on it, but unconscious bias I think might become more prevalent in these settings, because you're physically interviewing people, right? And not just from even how they look, but even how their home looks. These are factors that you take in when you're observing these things, right? So it will be, I don't know the answer to it, but I do think it's going to be a significant factor to consider as organizations going forward. And then again, picking up on those social cues, as I said, when you're speaking with people and you're able to communicate with them directly in person, you're able to see how they're feeling. Now, of course, on a video call, when you're not really noticing their twitches, or how people are moving, if they're feeling uncomfortable. And in interviews, we always know when people are feeling uncomfortable. You can see physically, candidates, bless them, when they are uncomfortable, you can see it. But in a video setting, you won't be able to pick up on that as effectively and be able to change your approach so the candidate feels more comfortable. So these are things that are going to become a skill. That's why we believe that. And then finally, from a performance review point of view, it's going to be driven by, I know many cultures out there in terms of businesses are, very much autonomous, and there are lots of organizations that also aren't. And what I do believe is that we're going to move to more of an output-driven culture within recruitment. It's going to be less around, what you're physically doing throughout the day and what you've actually and more so what you've actually achieved and what those numbers say. And I know that sounds crazy, but what I noticed when we moved to a complete remote workforce was that you were less. Obviously, because you didn't see people in the office and you didn't see them around, you weren't seeing what they were doing in terms of amount of activity. Cool. So what you would do is you'd basically, can you hear me now, guys? Great.
Yeah.
Cool.
We can, yeah.
Yeah, so what you do is basically you could look at actually what the output was instead of actually considering factoring in anything else, because you can't see people. So obviously I don't know if it's a wrong or right way, but as human nature, we're looking at more what is the activity that day. Tracking activity will be essential on recruiters, hiring managers, and function wide. So what I mean by tracking activity is tracking it instant in real time. So instant reporting and performance. Real-time data will be the main factor in decision making instead of having to pull reports and then spend an afternoon doing that. So these are the 5 factors that we see an impact on talent acquisition immediately. And of course, this is all points leading to one thing. So team collaboration will be more hands-on, workload and workflow will increase, candidate engagement will shift to being less high touch in the early stages, candidate video assessment will become a new skill, and performance reviews will become increasingly data-led. So what this means is that one thing for recruiters, there is going to be more work to do. And would you guys agree on that? Do you feel like there's going to be more workload on you guys? Absolutely, definitely. And obviously, as recruiters, we already are slammed. There's countless amount. We don't have enough hours in the day. So what can solve that is technology. And obviously, today we're here to talk about how you can choose the right remote recruitment technology. But I don't think it needs to be a huge transformation of a project. It just needs to be slightly adapting what you're doing and how you're doing it. So we were looking at steps to choosing the right recruitment technology. And in these steps, first of all, there is no right way to do this, right? There's no right technology to use. There's no one technology to use, and that might be the right way. It's all got to be fit around the businesses that you guys work for, right? So first of all, you need to define the business needs within the organization. So what I mean by this is obviously as a business, how your business operates, what sectors it operates in, who's going to be using the technology, what are the current trends in the market, and how the main important thing is how we're trying to improve our function. Anything you want to add to that, Kevin?
No, not really. I think this encompasses all of it very well.
Focus on end-to-end requirements. So when we're talking about implementing technology, it needs to be autonomous across the whole recruitment function. And I'm only focused on the recruitment function, right? So if we take a look at how it's going to impact our sourcing, what recruitment marketing activities will this technology enable us to do? How are we going to do candidate screening in this? And how's it going to meet the expectations of our business? How will we effectively be able to assess within this technology the candidates that are coming through, whether it's via video, whether it's early stage questionnaires, wherever it may be, looking at all of those things. And then of course, onboarding. Tracking all of the above is the main essential thing. So obviously you can get loads of different technologies that do lots of different things in these spaces. So when we're looking at sourcing, there's loads of tools for sourcing. Recruitment marketing, there's loads of services for recruitment marketing. Candidate screening, there's loads of services. Why do you think it's super important that you're connecting all these dots? Neil, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, because the more disjointed you are about all of this, and the more disjointed you are if you're sourcing in one place, you're doing your recruitment marketing somewhere else, the more with this increased workload, with the increased amount of data that you've got, if you're then trying to drag all of that from loads of different places and you're not connecting all these dots up and you don't have a good workflow and some way of automating that workflow, then you're really going to sort of get stuck under a ton of work playing catch up, and it's going to be a really difficult time.
Exactly, and the biggest issue with technologies is that a lot of them are siloed and don't play ball. So to create the right engagement, as you said, Britt, and to make the process more efficient, Elena, absolutely important that you are able to singularly track every piece of activity across these 5 spectrums. And obviously, that's just the main recruitment functions, right? But even when we talk about interview scheduling, there's lots of other sort of offshoots that come out of all of this stuff. Email tracking, who's opened your email marketing, all these types of different things. There's lots of different offshoots. So the third question you need to ask is, what is the barrier to entry? Obviously, as we're looking for recruitment technology in the market, you need to know, first of all, how soon do we need this? How fast is it to get set up on these technologies? And also, how costly is the technology? Because if it's a short-term solution, just whilst you're pushing through, obviously the COVID side of things, then you don't want to be spending a ton of money on a short-term solution, right? So it's how costly these things are. And then another main question is, what is the impact of us not deploying the technology? So what do you think I mean by the impact of not deploying the technology?
Well, certainly the case of if you're not in line with the rest of the market and you're not using these tools to engage candidates, engage clients, then you're losing instantly that competitive edge already. That's one of the main reasons it's so important to have these technologies implemented.
Yeah, exactly. So instantly being able to have a real solid competitive advantage across the board. The challenge that I found when, in my past speaking with lots of recruitment functions, employers, is that they believe that technology should be costly. And I'm of the belief that actually, there are lots of shortcuts that people can take in being able to do a lot of these things. Granted, though, they are all separate technologies, right? So through having understanding of these 2 steps, you're able to really start defining, well, what is the right technology for me? We obviously looked at the market out there. There's lots of different technologies in the market that you guys can use from a sourcing point of view, from an applicant tracking point of view, from a recruitment CRM point of view, from video interviewing, from pre-employment assessments and predictive hiring, to CV scraping, to even social recruiting out there in the market, and also onboarding. Now, obviously, if you take a look across the board, there is one common that sits across mainly a lot of those tools. And as a remote recruitment function, we spent years building a piece of technology which can integrate all of these things and get deployed instantly, right? And the way we looked at it was we wanted to focus on, from my background, I didn't want to use loads of different systems. I knew that there was a requirement for different systems, and I'm not knocking any different systems. I think there is requirements for lots of them. And so we wanted to look at the whole market and build one for employers. And that's what we did with our platform called Leo, right? So from the point of view, this was because it was built for remote working, we took the whole process that we were talking about today and all the impacts of that, and then started looking at our technology. So when we were focused on this, if you take a look at the market, you don't want to be using all these different systems. It can become a headache to roll out all of these. So you've got, the traditional recruitment stack of a client, let's say, for instance, or a sort of employer. It could become obviously a headache to integrate all those. So what is the barrier to entry of using these technologies that you're trying to deploy for your remote working? How collaborative are they? And also, how fast can you deploy? So we looked at that and we built basically all of that in one place. And the whole methodology was looking at, well, what is all in one and how do we create a great user experience so it's instantly able to access? So we did a third-party study from our competitors in the market, which is, based on this magic quadrant. No presentation would be good without a magic quadrant. And it was how all in one the market was against and how great the experience was. And this is sort of what came back from that third-party study. As you can see, Leo's up on the right-hand side. So what we built is all about automating tasks, guys. What we wanted to create was not about, so as a recruiter myself, I'm all about efficiencies. I don't want to be doing manual data entry. I don't want to be scheduling interviews. I don't want to be, building massive reports on a Friday afternoon, spending 6 hours of my day doing that. I want to be able to instantly access all that sort of information. So things like when we started thinking about how we could benefit our employers was, how do we give access to hiring managers, recruiters, and candidate calendars? How do we get all those in one place and use an algorithm to schedule the interview or enable candidates to book themselves in? How do we report? How instant can we report? When we wanted to sort of build the Google Analytics for recruitment and sort of integrate it into real-time data views. How do we synchronize data? How do we send time at stage alerts to our customers? So prior to this, when I worked for Accenture, I would get a report that was pulled, from our colleagues in India. They would build out a report daily coming from Taleo. It would take them obviously, a lot of time. And it would give me daily reports on obviously my pipelines. This is the type of thing that we wanted to automate instead of having teams do it. Sending notifications to even our suppliers. How do we collaborate with them more effectively? And it being able to automate those supplier engagements, those candidate early stage engagements that don't feel like they're being automated, but the candidate's able to feel like they're being looked after. So tracking and delighting candidates, as we spoke about. So looking at the candidate management piece, giving candidates their own portals and self-service tools. I think that we have moved to a time where people are happy with self-service tools. Obviously candidates want a great experience when they're going through their physical touches with people. So if I go into an Apple store and I get a terrible experience, that's not good. But I'm happy to book my time early on a self-service tool. So things like using self-service tools for candidates so they can book themselves in, so they can see their own stages. We wanted to copy, like Domino's Pizza. I don't know if anyone's ever ordered a pizza off of Domino's, but obviously you've got the little robot there, tells you what's going on. We haven't built a little robot or a graphic like that, but we wanted to copy that sort of feeling that you get when you're ordering your pizza. And I know it sounds crazy from a customer experience point of view, from a candidate experience point of view, pizza and work, but if you can make it as consumerized as possible, you're able to really give people a great experience with your brand. Stuff like, even sharing content with your own databases, and their own portals, sharing content to engage, re-engage, and again, being able to video assess, which we've rolled out, in 3 different ways, and letting candidates do their own self-service video interviews, aren't giving them questions to answer themselves, right? Improving recruitment performance as well, as I spoke about to you guys earlier on. We wanted to look at how do we improve recruitment performance in our platform and for our customers. So giving real-time pipeline views, so you're not spending, as I said, an afternoon on a Friday reporting for your stakeholders. You can literally just jump on a call with them and go straight to a visual dashboard with all the data in the right place. And because it's all tracked in one platform, there's no anomalies in data. It's the real views of data, right? Looking at candidate engagement reports. How engaged are your candidates from email marketing? How can we how many of our candidates are clicking on our marketing, and how many candidates what are the most engaged candidates in our database? So filtering down from those types of things from our email marketing. And then, looking at things like budget control as well. And one of the things we're looking at the moment is also recruiter workload. How do we make sure that we can, have those performance review meetings, but actually talk about, well, I'm overworked as a recruiter at the moment. I'm 150% maxed at the moment. Looking at obviously managing suppliers, I know that a lot of recruitment employers will not be using agencies at the moment, but there'll be a lot of people who want to just utilize the best agencies. And so understanding how those agencies are performing in your portal through visual analytics is super important. Collaborating with them on candidates, so you're actually creating more of a deeper partnership with your best agencies, the ones you can rely on in the good and in the tough times, and being able to track and manage all the people that they submit historically, looking at their data from any single time period. So how do we do that? And that's what we wanted to build out. What's what we built out into Leo. And then obviously centralized processes, centralizing all the processes into one place. So your email, your recruitment, your sourcing, your email marketing, your recruitment marketing, sorry, your candidate screening, assessments, intelligent screening, matching to jobs, assessments, and of course, really slick onboarding for candidates to self-service themselves and track. And yeah, you know, from an employer branding point of view, I think it's going to become super more prevalent in this time. Looking at the most beautiful, how do we just give ourselves, so you don't need to spend 30, 40, 50 or whatever, I know, 100 grand if you're some employers on a massive career site. You know, giving your recruitment marketing functions the ability to just drag and drop build their own careers pages and build it into jobs instantly. Using the secure your candidate portals to share employer branding and content across your candidate databases, and creating hyper specific talent pools and marketing to those guys on a consistent basis with reports on. So the three things that we looked at was how sophisticated is the market, how collaborative is the market, and how scalable are the tools out there. And that's really where we came up with our idea of building this all in one ATS that is delighting customers out there at the moment. So, you know, sophisticated from automation, lots of automation, time savings, abundance, your analytics in there, and how we're qualifying candidate readiness, candidate skills matches, and also the fit for a job, and culture. How collaborative is, you know, cross-organizational, you know, in with your hiring man, your agencies, your hiring managers, generating feedback with your hiring managers, automatic reminders of feedback, and also performance reports, and then fully scalable to any size of organization. Does anyone have any questions at all? Or Neil, do you want to add anything? Kev, do you want to add anything?
After you, Kevin.
Yeah, certainly. So the entire entire ecosystem of hiring now has obviously changed dramatically, whether we kind of like to accept that or not. And moving to this whole remote workforce criteria, and it really does open up some massive benefits to the talent attraction and candidate market. And simply put, the tools that are coming out now and the tools that we've developed and other people are developing are really, really strong. And to be able to bring them all into one platform has been really powerful for us as a business. And the engagement and the help that it gave us in our recruitment endeavors was just, the impact was phenomenal. And the ability to do all those things across one platform has been really strong. That's all I'd like to add.
If anyone has any questions, please feel free to email me. On Monday, I'm also holding another webinar, which is recruiter marketing. So my background is heavily training in employer branding, recruitment marketing, and we're doing a 1-hour crash course. It's free to attend. We've got over 100 recruiters joining it, and it's literally nitty gritty of recruitment marketing. So first of all, how do you create really beautiful or really engaging marketing content in an efficient way? How do you establish an authoritative voice? And then finally, sort of, you know, what social media strategies you can implement as recruiters. So if you guys want to attend that, I will send you the information. So Elaine, I'll send you an email after this. Magdalene, I'll send you an email after this. It's going to be a really neat thing. What we also have is we built a 100-page social sourcing Bible, which was rolled out a good couple of months ago, but everyone's going to get a copy of that as well. So it's a 100-page Bible on using every social channel and how you can recruit. So I would love a lot of you guys to join that if you can. I'll send you all, everyone who's joined today, I'll send these slides over after the call. And again, I'll send you a link to the recruiter marketing crash course on Monday. It's going to be Monday at 1 p.m. GMT. So thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate everyone taking the time today, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and look forward to answering any questions one-on-one after I send any emails. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.